it's really inside of you that you just want to start something. You see a gap, you see an opportunity, and you can't stand it. You just have to start something.
Hey Karen, how are you?
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good, good, good. Um,
Awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time for us today, Karen.
yeah, of course. When I got your email, I'm like, AMA is an American Medical Association? What?
It's
But
just
now I know.
it's yeah.
I'm definitely an entrepreneur. I live on line, and that's how, juicebeauty.com and Amazon Luxury were our big,
Yeah,
were huge for us.
yeah,
But no,
yeah.
but
So,
I have been gone from the company for over a year. So,
oh, really? So
yeah.
how has been this year for you then?
Pardon me?
How has been this year for you then after being apart from company?
Um, you know, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how the company's doing now. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay.
So I
How do you
that's
spend
all
your
I'll
day?
say online.
Okay. How do you spend your day usually after
I'm
leaving?
working actually on a new brand, so stay
Wow.
tuned.
Wow. That's good to hear because as entrepreneur, Karen, it's difficult to live a life without
Yeah,
getting involved in company building.
no, for sure.
Mhm.
It's yeah, once in your blood, always in your blood, kind of. You just keep
Absolutely.
going.
Absolutely. Karen. In fact, while researching, your journey, we felt was so inspiring, Karen, and that made us to message you and, get you on this session. So thanks so much for accepting this.
That's great. Well, hopefully we'll get a good turnout. I just put a reel up, but I'm not good at inserting links, so I don't know if I did it right. But
It's
anyway,
good, good, all good over here, Karen. And I think anytime our audience would also start joining in. I already see Catherine in over here. Hey, Catherine. We'll start shortly, just a minute away from our schedule.
I was trying to post a reel, but I don't think it posted. Let's see. Oh well.
So is a new brand also in beauty space?
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. My love. I'm gonna turn this light on here. Hmm.
Yeah.
So how often do you do these? And how do you pronounce your first name for me again?
Sorry, come again. So, Karen, we do this once every month. And what was your second question?
Pronounce your first name, please.
Oh, the way you pronounce it is Sonakshi.
Sonakshi. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It means golden eyes in Hindi.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it's also a goddess name back here in India.
Nice.
Yeah, Karen. Where are you based out of in US?
North of San Francisco.
Oh, awesome. So I'm traveling to San Francisco next week.
Oh, great. For what? For a
Yeah, so
conference?
there's this event in Vegas called Shop Talk. So my
Oh,
flight
yeah.
via San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get to spend a few days in San Francisco.
Yeah, I am actually because a lot of our investors are from San Francisco, like Y Combinator. So I'll go and meet them next week.
That's great. That's great.
Awesome. So I see a couple of people already joining in. So, hey everyone, welcome to this AMA. This is our fifth Ask Me Anything session of Roaring Ladies of E-commerce. For those of you who don't know what Roaring Ladies of E-commerce is, it's a community led by women, for women, and from women. So, it's a group of people working in e-commerce space, get to learn a lot about how do we build a business, how do we get customers, how do we retain customers, how do we grow from a channel which is called direct to consumer. So everything and anything related to e-commerce is what we discuss in this community. We'll also on a regular basis keep sharing the link of the community during this session. But today here we have Karen, who is a serial entrepreneur. She started her journey with a brand called Juice Beauty in 2005, and she has been a very successful entrepreneur so far. Over to you, Karen. Our community would love to learn about you. A short 2 to 3 sentence description we'd appreciate that, Karen.
Okay, well, you just asked where I'm from. I'm north of San Francisco. I'm a diehard Californian, and I'm a serial wellness entrepreneur.
Awesome.
So, wellness and fitness. I've had 3 companies, which I can talk about. Started 3 companies.
Awesome, Karen. Why don't we start with that? What made you start 3 businesses, and what was that one motivating factor that led you to become an entrepreneur?
I started my first business right out of college when I moved to California from the Midwest, from Michigan. And it was really, it's something innate with people. It's really inside of you that you just want to start something. You see a gap, you see an opportunity, and you can't stand it. You just have to start something. And my first business at 22, and yikes, the early 1980s, before some of you were born, was Get Fit Aerobics. And I ended up starting an aerobics business and on the Army, and I got the Army contract for Northern California. So I was teaching about 5 classes a day, shin splints, terrible shoes, the whole thing. But and then that led me to my second company, which was much larger. It's a corporate wellness company called ExecuFit, which then I sold to Pacific Care, which became United Healthcare. It's still a huge department in United Healthcare, and it was a worksite wellness program with fitness and nutrition and stress management. So I've always focused there, and which kind of led me to clean organic beauty with a wellness base. And I bought the name Juice Beauty and started it from scratch in 2005.
Awesome. This is already so inspiring, Karen, and we have just begun the session. Like there has been more than 20 to 30 questions that our community folks have submitted to ask you, but we would be able to cover just 9 or 10 of them today. But Karen, like you mentioned, you started your journey back in, like it's been more than 3 decades now almost. So tell us, Karen, like what was, was there any person in your life who motivated you to get started? And also through the journey, there is always a lot of ups and downs as an entrepreneur. So what made you kept going and, start launching these new companies with the same motivation, with the same grit that you had on day zero when you started your business?
Yeah, because Juice Beauty, I started and ran for 19 years. I haven't been there in a year, and I know everybody's digital, so the website has drastically changed and the branding, and yeah, I'm not going to, I haven't been there in a year anyway, but I started and ran it for 19 years, and we had a huge business on juicebeauty.com. But what motivates you? I can only tell you it's from within, but you see a gap. Like after my first 2 companies, and I was consulting in private equity for healthy lifestyles organizations, and I just kept looking at different beauty companies. And, I had always used a million beauty products, but never ever, despite the fact that I was obsessed with and lived my lifestyle in a health and wellness manner, I never read a label on a beauty product until I started looking at it through private equity, until I became pregnant and in my 40s with my babies. And that's when I read a label for the first time and was kind of horrified. So fast forward in my late 40s, bought the name Juice Beauty and started from scratch. But really the motivation, I can only tell you it comes from within. I don't know if any one person inspired me. I certainly have been inspired by a lot of incredible women leaders throughout the years. But I think just how I grew up in the Midwest, and, you had to work hard. I mean, I worked all the way. I think I started babysitting at 12. I was painting apartments in high school. I was working in Sears credit department in high school. I worked all the way through high school and college, and it was just what we did. And so I think, my mother was a really hard worker, and that was inspiring. So
Amazing. Your mom is the source of inspiration for such a successful Karen then. Absolutely. So, we'll begin with our AMA now, Karen. So, the first question has come from Daniel. And here we go with the first question, which is, why do you think beauty brands continue to formulate products with toxic ingredients?
Well, that's a really good question. It's easy. Unfortunately, it's easier. So a lot of the huge brands have been petroleum based and have been using synthetic dyes and synthetic fragrance and forever. And it's easier. And I'll give you an example. When my former company came out with lip stains and everything, it's much harder to take crushed roses and then you have to color match every time. Because if you think about it, if you go to, and this is just one example, but if you go to a store and you get roses, your pinks are never the same. This is a little more pink, that's a little less pink, because they're live, they're crops, they're ingredients. But so what I pioneered and helped pioneer was real colors and hypoallergenic colors in like lip stains and things from blueberries and from roses. But what you had to do is you have to color match every batch. So you have to be motivated to get rid of synthetic dyes. And that's just one example, because if you have a synthetic dye, you put in 0.000 drops of red dye number 3 or something every time. You don't have to think about it. But if you're using more natural ingredients, you have to shade match every time. That's one more complex example. But when I started Juice Beauty years and years ago, again, I'm no longer there. I haven't been there in a year, so I'm not going to take credit for what the website or anything looks like now. But there was most of the beauty products they had a petroleum base. And what I wanted to do was start with organic, botanical, rich juices. It was very hard to find a chemist to do that. So again, it's these methods of formulating that have gone on forever with petroleum laced with dioxane, and synthetic fragrance is a lot easier than fragrance-free or a drop of an essential oil.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And there was a follow-up question which I think you already covered, but I'll just put it over here, which is, how difficult was it to formulate products that were clean and organic? Was it more costly or inconvenient?
Much more costly. And that's why you have to be committed to doing it. Much more costly, and also being committed to organic ingredients. And the reason I have been so committed to organic food and organic ingredients and beauty products for so long is because the earth does not need all these toxic pesticides. And they're forever chemicals, a lot of them, and they live forever. And that means they're living on your skin, they're absorbing. And if someone ever tells you they're not absorbing, there are great studies, one by UC Berkeley called the Hermosa study, that shows the very quick absorption into our bodies from the personal care products that we're using.
Absolutely interesting. And a follow-up question from my side, Karen, on this would be, there's one side of story where, you really have this perseverance on building something that's organic. It takes efforts, it takes time. And then there's other side of story where this real organic story should also come out in the market, and customers should start really to appreciate how much effort it goes into building it. So tell us about that journey, Karen. Like, how difficult was that? Because when you started, market was not as mature as where it is today. So tell us more on that, and what would be those 3 tips around building that organic story in market?
Well, okay, so building the organic story, and then also getting to the marketplace. Well, I'll give you a little entrepreneurial story for getting into the marketplace. And if you're thinking about entrepreneuring, you got to ask yourself if you have the personality traits. And I can give you some of those personality traits in a minute. But what I did is I was watching Ulta Beauty, and they were really growing. And so I started, here I had this small, unknown brand, and this was Juice Beauty. Gosh, this was probably in 2008 or 9, I think, that the company went into Ulta Beauty. And I couldn't get through to the buyer. They wouldn't call me back. Nothing. I was sending our beautiful products, nothing. So I looked up the CEO. Now it'd be a little harder to do this, but this is just a tip to just think outside the box. I looked up the CEO. Somehow, it was a publicly held company, so I found his assistant. I called her every day for I don't know how long. And they're headquartered in Chicago. And I said, I'm from the Midwest and I'm going to be right next to your office, which wasn't true. And I really just want 5 minutes with Chuck Rubin, who was the CEO at the time. And she kept saying, no, no, no. And finally, I think just to get rid of me, she said, okay, fine. He's got a breakfast meeting at so-and-so and such and such place. So I literally hopped on a plane and went there. And I had him for 10 minutes at this breakfast place and convinced him that he should give us a try in 50 of his stores. And then the rest is history. The Juice Beauty went all store. Again, I don't know what's happening with the company now because I'm no longer there, but it went all store and was in the top 10 to 15 prestige skincare brands the whole time I ran the company. So you have to be really just don't be afraid.
Yeah, perseverance. Absolutely. The next question, Karen, comes from Yuxuan. And they have asked, what is your current relationship status with Juice Beauty? Which I think you answered. And then how's the
I left a year ago.
how was the business when you left, Karen? And how was the journey in terms of revenue growth? And also, I'm pretty sure every company, every brand goes through their ups and downs. So how did you handle it during this phase of your life?
Well, for the 19 years I ran Juice Beauty, we had steady growth until COVID. And the whole COVID period, because we were mainly a brick and mortar store, it hit us hard. A couple of our labs went out of business, our suppliers. It was a really, really hard time. And and then we recovered. And then started growing again, very high gross margin, positive EBITDA. And I handed it off to the private equity company Invest, and they hired a CEO in 2023, at the end of 2023. And so that's when I stopped running the company. I don't know how it's going now because I think sometimes when you lose as Ulta would tell us, when you lose the brand authenticity and the founder story and everything, sometimes particularly with beauty brands and small to mid-sized company, and I'd say we were a mid-sized company, you lose the whole reason for customers to shop and come there. So I don't know how it's going now, but for the time that I ran it, steady growth to COVID, went down and then started coming back up, but always high gross margins. And it was, I was really customer obsessed and product obsessed. It's as simple as that.
You got it. And it's very crucial to be customer obsessed in any successful business that you build. So, Karen, one question for me as an entrepreneur that came up was, when you sell a business, it's like, you're giving away your baby. So how was that experience? And, at first when this private equity firm would have reached out to you, did you even think about selling the business? And how was that thought process in general?
Well, I've sold 2 businesses. My first business, my aerobics business, I just folded into my wellness company business, but I sold my corporate wellness company to Pacificare Health Systems, which then was quickly acquired by United Healthcare. That was a great experience. I actually reported and everyone said, "Oh my God, Karen, you've never worked anywhere. You've only been running your own businesses." I said, I can do this. And I was in my 30s and I worked 5 years for Pacificare, which became United Healthcare. But I reported to the top, and I reported to Terry Hartshorn and Rich Lapels and some of the people that had started the original company. So I actually had a great run there. It was interesting, and it was interesting to me to learn about corporate politics and things. I'd never been inside the middle of a corporation. I'm like, whoa, it takes people a long time to get things done. And you have to go from department to, oh my goodness. So it was a great learning experience for me. Selling Juice Beauty to a private equity company, my goal was to make sure the company thrived and the brand would look even better. I don't know if that's happened. And to really promote a lot of women from within. And yeah, so uh, um, I
Got
think
it.
I think when you sell to private equity or when you exit to private equity, my advice for people is to make sure that you can be completely done, that you don't have a lot of stock left, or that you can be completely done, because often the managing partner in charge of your brand might change, or their goals might change, or your incentives may no longer be aligned, or a CEO might be hired that doesn't understand the brand, or what anything can happen. So I think the goal would be to, if you're going to sell down to private equity, to make sure that it's your final exit, and
Advice.
anything that happens after that you don't care about. So, and some private equity companies, things can go very well, and others, not so much.
Makes sense, Karen. Thanks for sharing that with us. Next question is from Catherine. She has asked, what are the first 3 steps for starting a beauty brand once you have a concept?
Well, beauty is very, very crowded. So you have to make sure that you have all and I don't know if the person asking is a first-time entrepreneur or a serial entrepreneur, but you have to make sure you have forget beauty for a minute, make sure you have the entrepreneurial traits that will get you to success. And that's passion. Find an area of passion that will get you through all the ups and downs of business, because let me tell you, there's a lot of ups and downs. Resilience, I think, is the most important thing. Sometimes when young people come to me and they'll say, well, my company went out of business because I ran out of money, or, I ran into this problem, and maybe that happened, but most of the time, people can overcome obstacles if they're very resilient. And starting a business I don't care if you're very well funded or you're bootstrapping it. It's like logs coming down in front of you every step of the way, or it's like, go hiking at the tallest mountain in the world. And I don't mean to make it sound terrible, because it's the best thing in the world, but it's also the most challenging thing in the world. Kind of like having kids. Anyway, but so you have to really have resilience and the ability to overcome obstacles, the ability to think outside of the box. And so that's critical. It helped me for always being mission driven. And everything I've done, I love health and wellness. I love fitness. I love beauty. I wanted to bring the whole health and wellness and clean beauty and organic living to beauty, et cetera. Those are all missions for me. So that always helps me. And then you have to be willing to put it all on the line financially for yourself. I mean, I've done that so many times, but that's what I would ask yourself first. Then write a good business plan, go talk to some of the main retailers and find out if you have a point of difference to cut through the clutter online and or in retail, whichever direction you're going.
Makes sense. Everything, passion is all you need, and then you figure out a way. Absolutely, Karen. Next question comes from Kaylee. She has a bunch of questions for you, Karen. The first one goes here. How to stay relevant as a brand and business when there seem to be new beauty brands multiplying by the minute?
They really are, aren't they? And I swear, during COVID, if one more celebrity came out with a beauty brand, my head was going to pop off. It was celebrity after celebrity. And still, there's just so many, and men and women, and I don't know. Anyway, to keep reinventing yourself, or with Juice Beauty, when I ran it for 19 years, we continually escalated the scientific foundation of the company and the science behind it and the clinicals. And so I always kept just trying to up my game, because I was product obsessed and science obsessed, and worked with so many great chemists and leading scientists around the country, well, mostly in the Bay Area. So that's how that's how we stayed relevant.
Got it, Karen. The next question from her is, can you give an example of how a new category expansion performed poorly and how you course corrected it?
Hmm. Well, again, in the 19 years that I ran Juice Beauty, I oops, people are texting right and left. Okay. I started, I started multiple collections, all based on problem solution, whether it was age defy, blemish clearing, et cetera. But there was one collection I started that was a bust. And it was mainly because I got outside of our area too far, and it was supplements. And so I did this beautiful ingestible antioxidant rich supplement that like you could put your moisturizer on and get a juice boost smoothie at the same time. It was too early. We were too young. We weren't big enough. We didn't know how to get into supplements. Ugh. And so finally I just cut it off. So I think the lesson there is with some of the beauty collections that maybe were a little bit slower start that but fit our main goals, then that just would take more juice digitally, better assets, better creative assets, better clinicals, et cetera. But if something is kind of a little outside your area and you're stretching too much, then know when to cut ties and move on. And the challenge, I think, as an entrepreneur is often a lot of us get excited about so many things. We're just like, oh, we can do that. You have to really have the discipline to rein it in.
Yeah, makes sense. And just a follow-up question from my side on this would be, Karen, like there are always two sides of things. As an entrepreneur, you want to grow the business, you want to see those growth numbers from it could be revenues or number of customers that you have, but at the same time, you also need to maintain your balance sheet and the gross margins and EBITDA of your P&L. So how do you ensure that? How do you take decisions basis this, like whether it's time to put in more money and grow the business, or it is time to maintain that stability and keeping the P&L EBITDA positive? How do you made those decisions during your days?
Well, I think if you truly believe in something, I really balance data as well as my gut, though. I mean, and I think that's important. And I would suggest to all, and I can only speak for female entrepreneurs because that's what I am. But I think sometimes for me, and I don't know if this is for me or for a lot of people, if some people will resonate with this, but sometimes I would go, oh, I don't know. I would doubt myself a little bit, and occasionally, and I don't know if that again, I would do that throughout the years, and I'd say, but I really feel in my gut it's right, and some of the data tells me it's a right decision, and some of the data tells me it's not. And I think throughout the decades, what I learned to do is balance the data and my gut. And sometimes the data was telling me, I don't know if this is going to work, but I had a really strong feeling that it would work, and it worked. But it is hard because, for instance, in 2014, I made the decision to partner with Gwyneth Paltrow, and she invested in Juice Beauty, and we became partners. But it was an expensive endeavor because putting on events with an A-list celebrity is expensive and comes with a lot of things. It comes with their press person, their bodyguard, their makeup art, comes with a lot of things. So their makeup artists, their hairstylists, et cetera, which is all what they deserve and how they need to be treated. And but that was a big step for me at that time and for the size of the company. And it was a long time ago, and but I think she was respected. Gwyneth Paltrow was respected for her taste, and that's what I wanted. We were coming out with more makeup, and I wanted, because Juice Beauty was primarily a skincare brand, we were coming out with more makeup, and so I wanted her taste to be really spread across the brand, and it worked, but it was scary, and I thought, I think could work, and I think it's the step we need. And then I did it again in COVID. As some of you are on the beginning, and I said Juice Beauty grew steadily until COVID. Then we hit a wall with a couple labs going out of business, couple suppliers, but then recovered, and I handed it off to a private equity company and a CEO they hired. But in late 2023. But during COVID, I secured a partnership with Kate Hudson, my long-term dear friend. And that was scary too, because here we're in the middle of COVID, we're having all these problems, and but I went out on a ledge, and it worked. It really helped boost us out of COVID. So sometimes you just have to take a leap.
Yeah, gut feeling. Go with your gut feeling. So yeah, there was the third question from her again. How do you stay up to date on the rapidly changing digital sales landscape, and what advice would you give to e-commerce leaders?
Well, I'm definitely not a digital expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I started juicebeauty.com. I stuck my neck out when Shopify platform was first launching, and I thought, that's got to be the right platform to launch on. And thank God, it just all made sense to me. And so I have driven a lot of decisions with e-commerce. And then the key thing for me is hiring the right people. So that the really technical people that can parlay your vision onto screen. Again, juicebeauty.com is no longer my vision. I just want to state it's a whole different branding now. But for those 19 years, it really screamed of vineyard to beauty and just California brand, and it really spoke to people, and having the founder present on the website spoke to a lot of women, and inspired them. So I think having the right people. And as we all know, in the digital world, it's not only if you have a company, the employees, but all of the consultants you need for, whether it's your digital marketer, growth marketer, or, the people doing your ads. So they're beautiful. It's just so critical. But I think organizations like this are fabulous for keeping people up to date. And I love the fact that you've got a women's group too, because you could tell me, is digital leadership, is it still primarily men, or is it, I don't know. Sonakshi?
Yeah, it's a lot of women, Karen. Like, we started this community realizing that 80% of VP e-commerce are actually women in these states.
That's amazing. Because when I started in 2005, my first website, because my wellness company did not have a website, but it was Worksite Wellness. But my first website in 2005, it was all men. So at least it was showing up at my doorstep. I don't know, but that's really exciting. That's
Yeah.
really uplifting.
We have
Yay.
come far. We have come far. But
Yay.
mine's Karen.
Yay. But
Absolutely.
I think that and reading. Oh my God, all the alerts that come up online are amazing. But organizations like yours are fabulous.
Thanks, Karen, for that. One last question before we end this session is one piece of advice, Karen, that you would like to give to the young entrepreneurs who are just beginning their journey in retail and e-commerce space, and especially as a woman entrepreneur, what's that one thing that you would like all of us to take care of?
Well, I already talked about customer obsessed, product obsessed, data and gut, resilience, financial discipline. We talked about hiring the right people. This is going to be a non-techie one. Surround yourself with supportive friends, a supportive partner, and supportive family. Because if you don't have that and you are starting a company, it's just way too hard. I mean, I have a great husband. He's a cardiologist, so we're not in the same world, which works for us. And he's just always been very supportive, because entrepreneurs work hard, and it's you really, really need someone that shares your enthusiasm, as well as your friends and your family. So that's probably one of the most important pieces of advice I could have for you, because you still have to break loose and have fun, and get out of your brain once in a while. So, but hats off to this organization. I think it's amazing. And again, when I started my first website, I don't know what the ratio was, but it was all men that showed up to help, and so I'm thrilled that there's so many fabulous women. I'm so proud of my daughter that she's an engineer, computer and electrical engineer from Duke up at Microsoft. So I'm so proud of all these women that are just doing so well.
That's amazing to hear, Karen. Maybe your journey inspired many of us and to start this entrepreneurship journey. I think kudos to you on keeping us so motivated and inspiring all of us throughout our lives. Thanks so much for that,
Thank
Karen.
you. Thank you,
For
Sonakshi.
all those of you who have joined us today, thanks for joining in. There is a community link on the chat. Feel free to join it. We keep doing these sessions once every month. And if you have any follow-up questions, do drop us. We'll send an email to Karen and get back with answer. Thank you so much, Karen. Thanks everyone for joining in.
And I just put my Instagram on the chat, founder Karen Behnke.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. Please do go and follow Karen. Love the conversation, Karen. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.